Hey guys, Tammy here, and in this video, I'm going to talk about accepting a new normal in child custody. Now, when we go through the divorce or breakup process, obviously it's very tumultuous, right? It's a reset on your whole life. Nothing looks the same for the most part. It's like a clean slate. Sometimes a clean slate you didn't ask for and you didn't want, right? And I think a lot of times we're most concerned about the disruption to the children. And I talk to a lot of parents who are very concerned about that and who really want to try to keep things as similar to the old way of doing things as they possibly can. And while that can have some advantages when you can do that to an extent, there can also be a lot of negative consequences of trying to do that. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but before I do, let me just remind you, if you like my content, don't forget to hit like on this video and also subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. As always, let me remind you to go check out the podcast if you're not doing that. And please feel free to share this on social media. When we have that point of breakup, I have seen in the very beginning, especially, I see a lot of parents who want to try to continue to do things as a family. Oh, we can do Thanksgiving together, and we can do Christmas together, and we can do Halloween together, and we can do all these things, right? And, we're coming up on all these holidays, which is one of the reasons that this topic was kind of top of mind for me, because I'm dealing with this with a lot. I shouldn't say a lot. I'm dealing with this with several of my clients right now. And I would say that for the most part, we tend to not be doing things together as much at this point, right? But the other part of that is that then you're adjusting to, well, I'm not having my kids on that particular holiday. I just had a client who went through, this is not her year for her child's birthday. She wasn't with her child for their birthday. And so it just things like that, is not what was in our head when we signed up to be a parent, right? That we didn't think we were going to be present for half the things. And so it's really difficult. And a lot of times parents are like, you know what? Why do we need to do this way? Why can't we just all be together on holidays, be good for the kids if we could do that? Now, I agree with you that it can be good for the kids if you can do that. But for the vast majority of people, that's difficult to do. For the vast majority of people, they end up having conflict in some shape or form over exactly how this is going to happen. And let's face it, not the least of which is the entrance of new partners, because now there's 4 people trying to navigate this situation, not just 2. And even if we think that we can be in the same space and not have a problem, inevitably something will happen while you're together that you did not anticipate, that then creates a problem or creates conflict or creates discomfort. I can remember, I don't even know if I've ever told this story actually. I can remember, probably not, because this is in regard to one of my sons, and they're they're just now old enough really for me to kind of talk about things more. They're about 30, but we went to dinner one year for, I think, my older son's birthday. He was a teenager, and we went to dinner, and Thomas and I were there, and my son and his little girlfriend at the time, and I think a couple other close friends. My other son, his brother, obviously, and he invited my ex-husband, and my ex-husband came and brought his girlfriend at the time. Okay. So I'm thinking, okay, no problem. Like, whatever. I'm remarried. We've all moved on. This was obviously even, several years down the road after things had kind of found their new normal and calmed down, right? We sit down for dinner and everything's going fine until the girlfriend made some comment that was essentially referencing my ex-husband's performance in bed. Okay. I'll just say it that way. It was really inappropriate, especially with a table full of teenagers. I did not appreciate that being said in front of my children. I felt like telling her she forgets that I already know what that looks like. I've already had my own experience with that, right? But I didn't say anything. I was able to keep my mouth shut in the situation. But I can remember coming home and just being so irritated and so angry and so re-triggered about the whole situation. Now, I talked about being triggered in my last video, and so, this is a prime example of it. And I was really angry, and I had to just vent and vent and vent to Thomas. I was so mad, and I went on and on and on about her stupid comment and all those things. It kind of ruined my child's birthday for me, right? Because it's like I went and I thought we were all going to be in the same, place and do our thing and everything would be fine because we were all far enough out that, I didn't expect to be triggered in any way or anything. And I think the evening probably was fine for my son. For me, it really wasn't enjoyable. And I ended up not really enjoying his birthday that year because of that whole situation. Now, I suppose on the flip side, I remember that birthday, right? I may not necessarily have remembered that if something like that hadn't happened. Usually those kinds of events are the things that stick and create the memory for us, good or bad. But it really just was too much togetherness. Now, I'm not saying that down the road you can't have togetherness. I think there are times that you can when it's appropriate, but you have to know all the players, okay? And if you're dealing with a narcissistic person on the other side, I can tell you that definitely, positively, for sure, the first couple years, you don't want to have that because what's going to happen is either it's going to be something significant that it is going to affect your children, or they're going to find out some information in the process of that interaction that they're going to then manipulate and use or talk to the children about, or you're just going to find yourself triggered and then it's going to be hard to parent, hard to be present, all of those kinds of things. And here's the thing. Things are going to change, okay? They are. By way of the fact that you separate from the other parent, things for your children cannot be exactly the same. And I think we get in our head that change is bad because our human nature is that we don't want things to change, right? We avoid change. It's uncomfortable. All right. And so we don't want that discomfort for ourselves and we don't want that discomfort for our children. So we do everything we can to avoid it. But change also equals growth. Change also equals learning to adapt. Change also equals figuring out that things can be different and still be just as good in a different way, right? There's lots of lessons to be learned through that change, but sometimes we're so desperate to prevent it that we forget the upsides of it. And honestly, I'd much rather see my children learning about adapting to change, seeing me adapt to change, learning that we can create a new normal, and learning that is better than being constantly exposing yourself to a toxic person. Okay, which is what I think happens when you're dealing with a narcissistic person and you try to do this thing where, oh, we're all going to do holidays together and do all these things together. Really? Why? Do you want all your holidays characterized by the toxicity from this other parent? Wouldn't you rather have your own holiday on a different day that's peaceful, that's calm, that your children actually get to enjoy? Your children want you to be happy too. I just want to shift your perspective on this a little bit where you don't have this perception that everything being exactly the same equals good. Okay, sometimes the change is needed. Sometimes the change is better. I will tell you that, like in my ex-husband's case, he has a different girlfriend now. That was many, many years ago when that happened, but he has a different girlfriend now. Very nice girlfriend who I actually like better than I like my ex-husband, but that's a whole other story. But one of my sons got married a few years ago, and we did the wedding actually at their home outside. They had a very, large, nice area to be able to do the wedding. And me and Thomas and Thomas's two kids, and we went, and everything was pleasant. We all had the day together. We have some great pictures from it. My ex-husband was actually cordial enough that day, and his girlfriend was great. And so we had no problems. But I've been around her enough times now to know that that's probably going to be the case with her, that she's like me. She really doesn't like whatever. She doesn't, not like the one girlfriend who felt the need to apparently compete with me or tell me how much better it was for her or whatever the deal was. Again, you have to kind of know the people that you're dealing with when you're putting yourselves in these different situations. Okay. Thomas and I were also able to do this later on with his ex-wife, to have all of us in one space without it creating any problems for anyone. But I would say that the vast majority of the time it does, and I think there were times when Thomas's ex-wife was here and I didn't have a problem with it. I wasn't, I didn't have any episode in any way, but he did, because she would say something or whatever that was, something to do with something in the past or whatever, and it would trigger him. And then he would be the one that was upset. A lot of it is being able to accept that different is okay, and that there can be a new normal that's just as good. And one of the examples I always use is that one of the things that Thomas and I did is when we don't have his children for Christmas, so their Christmas is like a block of several days. And so one parent has 3 or 4 days at Christmas, one parent has 3 or 4 days at New Year's. So on the years that we had the children for New Year's, we just started making that our Christmas. So New Year's Eve, we would just open gifts with them on New Year's Eve. And we wouldn't have, our tree would still be up usually, and we wouldn't necessarily have kind of a Christmassy kind of celebration, but we would have a New Year's celebration where we would have party poppers and, silly string and all kinds of things that little kids love. And we would open our gifts on that evening, and the children really adapted really, really well to that, and they loved it. And they got to the point where they actually loved that tradition more than the years that we regularly had Christmas. So so it's kind of funny, you can get creative and you can really create an even better situation for your kids in a lot of ways. So different is not bad. Okay. So accepting the new normal can be a good thing. If you'd like to get some more help on your child custody situation, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's a link on that page. You can book a time to speak to a member of my staff, learn more about my services, and how I might be able to support you on this journey. See you guys next time.